Hello. In this episode, the subject is jets and how to fly them. Since they are the battlefield version of the dragons in mythical battles, blowing fire from the skies, you first have to learn how to ride them. And that requires lots of practice. You have to be patient while learning to make them obedient to your command. Everyone you see dominating the skies has learned it by practice, nothing else. If you are a beginner, just go to an empty server and learn the basic flight first. Before that, you can adjust your vertical flight setting to inverted, so that when you push your mouse, nose goes up instead of down. The normal setting is more suitable for joysticks and controllers. Press forward key and push afterburners to take off. You don't need to press forward key anymore once the jet is in the air. The jet will maintain the speed automatically after takeoff. Afterburners will speed up the jet and brakes will slow down. Basically, there are two features that control the movement of the jets: pitch and yaw. Pitch up and pitch down. Yaw right and yaw left. If you want to make sharp turns in any direction, you simply roll the jet around and pitch up or down to steer. Mostly pitch up is used and most players assign their space key for that. You better do it as well if you are on the PC. Which perks to use? Air radar is a must to maneuver properly against opponent jets. Between flares and ECM jammer, the latter is a better choice because when ECM is deployed, you also disappear for a few seconds on radar, which gives decisive advantage to confuse your opponent. And it's up to you to choose between rocket pods and heat seekers. If you want to engage ground targets more effectively, go with rockets. If you want to fight air to air only, go with heat seekers. It might be preferable in fast vehicle spawn servers. However, in a decent dogfight, heat seekers will be useless. While flying jets, there is one thing which will affect your flight and speed all the time: gravity, which is everywhere in the universe as well as in virtual battlefield. While going up, your jet will lose speed, and while going down, it will gain speed because of gravity. This is very important because the sharpest turn you can make with a jet is with the speed of 313. We will get to that. In a jet, your biggest threats are opponent jets. You can avoid other threats by simply getting away, but opponent jets can chase you. That's why it's called a dogfight. And the best way to win a dogfight is to get behind the other jet and take it down from behind. Now, if it was a chase between two cars trying to get behind one another in a two-dimensional open area without roads, what would they do? The first thing they would do is to turn to the opponent or turn to the path of the opponent, and then try to turn as sharp as possible to get behind. The same goes with the jets. Difference is that it's done in a three-dimensional space. First thing you should do when you encounter a jet is to turn to it or its path, which is called a cut. Never ever try to get away from the opponent jet in a dogfight unless it's a proper maneuver. Otherwise, while you try to get away, the other jet will easily get behind you and you are dead. That's where all the magic begins. Two dragons looping and tricking each other trying to achieve the ultimate goal: to get behind. From the view of an outsider, it might look like they are endlessly circling around each other. That's actually not what they are doing. The purpose, or what they are really doing, is to turn to the opponent, in which ultimately one of them is going to end up with a turn right behind his rival. That's the core of a dogfight. To get behind the opponent, a jet has to turn as fast as possible, and the speed to make sharpest turns is 313. Keep the speed closer to 313 to get tighter turn radius. You need to learn to maintain your speed as close as possible to 313. When the jet is flying parallel to the gravitational ground, it flies with the speed around 330 to 340, so you have to brake a little. While going up, the jet slows down under 300 or even more. While going down, the jet gains speed because of gravity. To maintain the speed close to 313, you need to tap the afterburners several times while going up and brake while going down. When you are at the top and the bottom of the loop, you don't press any speed related button. That's the pattern to keep the optimal speed in vertical loops. But with different angles, the speed pattern changes. In a diagonal loop with approximately 45 degrees angle, you don't need to tap afterburners while going up, and you brake less while going down. You have to practice and learn the optimal speed pattern of the jet with different angles. Because while chasing the opponent, you'll be turning in all angles. Speed control is the most important thing against your opponents with a jet, which is the greatest threat to you. Like all kinds of combats in Battlefield 3, you have to see and engage the opponent first, in jets as well. If you are chasing an opponent's jet, and both are looping horizontally with perfect speed, then you might never get a clear shot. To avoid that, the attacker simply goes up or down while keeping the loop to extend the distance, so that he can get good angles to shoot. It's called high yo-yo and low yo-yo. One of the maneuvers used to turn the jet to the opposite direction is called immelman, which is to go up until the jet makes a 180 degrees turn, ending with a roll around its axis. This way, jet ends up in an opposite direction regarding the initial position at a higher altitude, to get more effective angles to the ground targets.
Enemy helicopter spotted.
The opposite of immelman is called a split S, which is made by turning the jet around its axis and hitting pitch up until a 180 degrees turn is accomplished. This way, jet ends up in an opposite direction regarding the initial position at a lower altitude, and is used mostly to turn to the opponent jets at a certain distance. The opponent jet usually overshoots the maneuvering jet and dogfight begins. Never go straight up if an opponent jet is behind you. This makes you an easier target.
Hostile jet spotted. Over.
The objective has been neutralized.
Barrel roll is a maneuver usually made by the attacker jet to gain more advantageous position, preventing him to overshoot the opponent jet. Also used to quickly turn to the desired direction. Barrel roll to top is used a lot by players after deploying the ECM jammer. This way, attacker jet disappears for a few seconds from the air radar, confusing the opponent, and lets the attacker dive to the opponent with a better position. In a dogfight, while two jets are trying to get better positions, the horizontal and vertical loops are not enough. If you always loop at the same angle, you are predictable and can be hunted down easily. You need to alter your path of loops, which is called switching, and the most common way of doing this is overturns. You simply roll the jet around its axis, and at a certain point turn around to properly get behind the opponent jet. Scissors is a defensive maneuver to have the attacker overshoot. Defender simply flies in a spiral path to extend the distance between 2 points. And when the time is correct, simply switches to another direction, mostly turning to the opponent jet. However, good pilots will start scissors right after you and will be impossible to shake them. It's always better to never allow opponents to get behind. These are the basic maneuvers that used in a dogfight. To be a good fighter, you have to learn to use these maneuvers properly, by correctly reading the radar and flying the jet with an excellent speed control. At first it might seem complicated and impossible to beat a better pilot, but practice makes perfect. And the jets are the very vehicles that require the most practice among vehicles in Battlefield 3. Have fun!